G'day, it's Schultzy here from the Children Cops. Now this is a bit of a prefix. Tonight's guest speaker is Roger Mayer. He has a history of Northern Territory and New South Wales Police and has connections to Damo and I. It is fantastic listening. The stories that are told, he joined in 78, are outstanding. Now, the recordings will be a little bit disjointed when they go from episode to episode, as we had to record this over a number of releases because we like to keep it to an hour, and the amount of information this guy has is phenomenal. So stay tuned, enjoy, and get ready for the first episode of Roger Mayer.
G'day everybody, we're back again. It's the Two Ordinary Cops and we've got a good night tonight. I can tell already. It's going to be a good night. We've got a guest on, but we'll cover a couple of things and then we'll introduce our guest.
Definitely. Mate, I'll tell you what, I'm very excited about tonight, and I have been for a while. It took a while to set this one up, but we'll go into that a little bit later on. Mate, but first of all, Damo, you owe a carton.
Oh, I'm happy to buy a beer, mate.
Okay, yeah, mate. Yeah. The reason is because you haven't got your big camera hat on. And I spoke to Big Camera. He's very upset about that.
Well, I'm on tour. I'm on tour and I didn't pack it.
So, mate, yeah, sorry. You owe a carton for that. That's just, not happy about that. Now,
that's fair.
Also, while we're on with Big Camo, now, I believe you met his daughter, Talia.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yep.
Paul Douglas had to drive us home slovenly from the Gowanna Brewery in Mackay.
That's right, mate. And he's also said she's the number one truckie for Golden, is it South Walker Creek? So, yeah, and then he said steering wheel attendant. So we've given her a shout out, saying, she listens to the podcast and he's going to make sure she listens to this one. So we need to embarrass her as much as we can.
Yeah, we'll do our best. We'll see how we go.
But so that's through from Big Camo. Also, mate, Sarah got back in contact with us. She's up to episode 61, but she said she'll jump ahead and listen to last week's to hear what we said about it, and also because that was in relation to when people coppers had to retract saying stuff in the media. So
yeah, yep.
So that's pretty good. And also, mate, Damo Doug's probably one of our biggest listeners. And mate, he's also. I said to him, mate, we didn't get a source of the week last week. I said I think we should give you one because he went to that incident was all over the media in relation to a Woolworths in Victoria where they had to taser that guy like 5 times. So, but he said he doesn't need one. But he said really. We should give a source of the week to the SOG members in Vicpol in relation to the shooting. Where was that? Where the 2 cops were killed?
Paul Punker.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
So, and
Definitely.
Also in relation to that, Samuel Cuthbertson got in contact with us and said we mentioned it, but we haven't spoken about it. He'd like us to actually talk about it.
Yeah, so we probably need to get some inside track information there because we need a bit more than just what the media's talking about. So, we'll do a bit of research and get the exact details of what's going on. And obviously that went on for months and months and months, I think nearly a year. So, yeah, definitely. We can cover all these things. There's plenty of time.
So, and also in relation to that, mate, if anybody in Victoria, how we get in contact with and get the source to them, get in contact with us and let us know.
Yeah, you're not known for talking. Police tactical groups don't talk much. So if anyone from SOG or anyone from any police tactical group in the country's got a contact in SOG, can you get in touch?
Yeah.
Let us know. We want to send them a bottle of sauce.
That's right.
Victorian SOG got a magnificent reputation. They're very, very hard dudes. So, we're happy to send you a bottle of sauce. For what it's worth, we'll send you a bottle of sauce.
Definitely, mate. But I think that's enough running around the mill for the time being.
Yeah.
I think we should introduce our guest. Now, do you want me to do the introduction or you?
Yep, go for it.
All right, mate. We have Roger Mayer. Now, Roger, before you jump on, mate, it's excellent to have you on. But you were Northern Territory Police and also you worked in New South Wales Police as a doggy. And you also know a friend of ours who you worked with in New South Wales, and that's Brett Meredith. Rest in peace, Brett. But, mate, this is your show, Roger. So just introduce yourself, mate, and go for your life.
Hello, how are you, boys? Thank you very
Good.
much for this. I've been looking forward to this extremely much. I was born and bred in Canberra, born in 1956. Father was, I had a strange upbringing because he was born in 1914, my father. Joined the army early. I was just looking at his pay books and whatnot. He went in and he was a bit young. He had to go in at 18, so he was 17, and they put his age back to, instead of April, they made it a few months earlier. Made him walk around the block when he first went to join. Said, how old? He said, 18. They said, well, go around the block, come back to see if he's still keen enough. He did 14 years in the British Army, and then he did a big secondment in the Middle East, in Palestine, and he was seconded to the Palestine police. And he became a mounted constable, and he's on the wall up there. I think you might be able to just see it on his mounted on his half-cut Arab stallion called Mahmoud. He had two, Mahmoud and Muhammad. He spoke fluent Arabic. He learned Arabic, and we learnt, and as a consequence, I learned Arabic at home, which came in handy when I was working later on in New South Wales, working out in the western suburbs, and give halak alhamdulillah shubat sawi tal imshi, all that sort of thing. So that was handy. And he was virtually all his education was through the army. So during the Second World War, he was wounded in the Middle East, shot through the wrist, and lots of stories from there. He loved his time in the Middle East. But as a result of that, because of the military upbringing, especially the British military, everything had to be discipline-based. So I would have to write a report from when I was about 10. I'd have to write a report for him every day of what I did and leave it for him, called My Day. He was mad on physical fitness. We would get up every morning before breakfast. He'd make us a cup of tea in bed, me, my brother and my mother. She never got up to run, but we had to run with him about 5-6 k's every morning around the lake in Canberra with a pair of shorts and a singlet on in winter. We were allowed to nothing else. In summer we'd run to the pool, down to Monica, dive in, swim 10 laps, put our shoes on just with our togs and run home. Then we'd have breakfast, which was 3 raw eggs in skim milk mixed up with some wheat germ, lecithin, and we could have cornflakes in that. He'd have Wheat Bix. We weren't allowed to have fresh bread or white sugar. He let us have honey in our tea for a while, and then he thought we were getting too soft, so he stopped that. Everyone wonders why I'm such a bastard. When you had an upbringing like that, so we had boxing training every afternoon. We did baton training. He worked at part-time at Brambles Brinks. He'd bring weapons home. He'd either bring a shotgun, Remington, which we'd break down, or a Beretta. Show us correct procedures for breaking down a weapon, correct handling of weapons, although there's none allowed in the house when my mother was there. Yeah. And you've read in the book, in the book, Tall Tales and True, and I spoke about him with great fondness, but when I was growing up, I didn't appreciate it because, and I look back and I appreciate, excuse me if I get a bit emotional with you guys, talking about post-traumatic stress, which we didn't know. My father had it and we didn't know what it was. He was a bricklayer by trade, came to Australia as a bricklayer, as a 10-pound pom, 1950, living in the in Canberra in the hostels there and laying bricks for A.V. Jennings. And then he went into the Commonwealth Police and they had him working night work guarding the Prime Minister's Lodge and government buildings. And they had dogs at the time, and there was no training. They just had these dogs, these attack dogs, and he told me he was given 2 dogs, Eve and Ben, 2 German Shepherds. And what they said to him, that the dog yards were down in Fishwick, the industrial area there, and they said, you go down in the van and pick up this dog for the night shift. And he went down there and there's this dog just growling in the kennel. He'd never been introduced, there was no training, he just walked around with it on lead. And he threw his hat in, dog sniffed his hat, went in, put it on lead and took it away. He had this female named Eve. He said every time you turn your back on her, she'd growl at him, and Ben was a big soft dog. but this bitch was just full on. And I think he let her go because they looked after the ANU, the Australian National University at the time too, and some miscreant there, and he let the dog go, and she towed this bloke up something fierce. When I was 12 months old, because I was the firstborn in Australia, my mother took me back to England for 6 months on the ship. 6 weeks, that would have been a nightmare for her. Apparently I tried to jump overboard a couple of times as a 12-month-old and nearly hung myself in the netting. And he stayed, and he was working as a Commonwealth cops in the night and laying bricks during the day. So
Wow.
to pay for our keep over there with family. And it was 6 months. I was 18 months when I got home, when I got back from there. But my father and I, he was just hard, and I was 40 before he was 42 when I was born, 44 when my brother was born. By that time he was getting too old to flog, so I copped all the floggings. I got flogged from pillar to post. But he left what they were going to do is, when he was in the Commonwealth Police, they were going to transfer him up to St Mary's, where the armament depot, there's a big armament depot, it's closed now, was all guarded by the Commonwealth Police. And they were going to send him up there as a sergeant. But he didn't want to leave Canberra, so he resigned and got a job at Parliament House as a guide in the old Parliament House. And he knew all the history of Parliament and used to do tours for people from all over the world, and we got to meet people. And as a result of that, he started learning Japanese. He thought Japanese is going to be the next language. So, of course, we all had to learn Japanese. And Japanese tourists would come in, and he'd ring home, and I'd be having to speak in Japanese. Moshi moshi. I go, konnichiwa, o genki desu ka? Nani oshite desu ka? What are you doing? Terabi o miyamasu. So I'd been speaking Japanese to this Japanese tourist when I was about 12. But he was doing this job as a guide, and we didn't know we were only young as kids, and he had a breakdown, mental breakdown. And my mother, I learnt this after when I got older. She said, when your father wasn't well, if I were walking, she would walk behind. When someone went to speak him, she'd put her lips up and go, don't speak to him, because you'll upset him, burst into tears or whatever. For a hard man, this was very, very difficult. And he came, sort of recovered from that, and went back as a guard at Parliament House. He couldn't do the guide job, and he worked 3 till 11 p.m. every day. His days off were Wednesday, Thursday, for the whole of his rest of his career, sort of thing. And on those days, he worked with Armour Guard as a money courier, a guard, doing the money transfers. But and always a very good boxer, so he did boxing every day. He fought for the welterweight championship of India in the army. Got beaten by a bloke named Alcock. He said, first hiding he ever got. And he gave it away, he gave boxing away. Because the reason they boxed and played sport was because you got off doing stag duty, you got better food, depending on who the commandant was. Very, very good welterweight, beautiful left hook. And we used to box nearly every day. And then, on the weekends. And he was running half marathons till he was 80. So he's the first one in Canberra to run 50 half marathons.
Wow.
Got a certificate here for that. He, in the newspaper, and he used to win every fun run for his age, because he goes, there's no one old enough to compete against me. When he worked up till he was 65, retired, and then he was fun runs and took up athletics. And he had 28 Australian records for shot put, discus, javelin, the 5K, the 10K, the 20K, running. And then when he was 80, he got cardiomyopathy, his heart enlarged, probably from all the running. And he just used to say to me, I just go to bed hoping I die during the night.
Wow.
He was worried, he was concerned I was going to end up not being a no-hoper, but working outside. He used to say to me, look, you've got to get an education, because you don't want to be outside working in the sun. And when you're a young fella, you go, I can be a labourer, they make good money. He goes, if I thought you were going to be laying bricks outside, I'd cut your throat now. I went, gee, that's a bit hectic. But that's the way it was. Because he said, you want to be working in an air-conditioned office and then go home and go and have a game of squash.
Yeah.
And When you're young, you don't want to. And I wasn't very good at school. I was getting flogged all the time. And I listened to your podcast, and it resonates so much with nearly everybody you've had on, has the same idiosyncrasies as me. Not good at school, have trouble concentrating, physically want to play football outside all the time, looking out the windows, and not stupid, but not the smartest people in the class.
Yeah.
And
I'll correct you there, Roger. I reckon it's not that it's not the smartest. I reckon it's just not academic. There's a different intelligence there.
I think I'm. I class myself as retarded with mathematics. I'm hopeless, but languages I excel at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Namarini mau wawa. Na dolanja. Schultzy, you're at Ramangining. They speak Gumarch. Namarini.
Yeah.
I'm Mark.
Yeah.
Na dolanja.
Mamak.
Nara Marangi Wongalili. Drinking Gapu.
Yaka.
That's Gumarch.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mukodumtum. Big kangaroo. That's what they call the police. Mukodumtum.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Yindi Baru. I have Yindi Baru here, big crocodile. So they speak the same dialect, Gumarch, that I spoke out at Gove. Anyhow, Nolan right? Same tribes. So I picked up that. The Gumarch, I spoke Gumarch, Japanese, went to night school to learn some Italian. So that was my thing, but maths I struggle with and things like that. But I was lucky. I was in the second lowest class at school all the way through, except English. I was not in the second highest, I think. But I was always getting into trouble for my attitude, for my behaviour, and all I want to do is be outside. I look outside. I want to go to football training. I want to go this, and then when I was about 10, I started judo, and that's been the love of my life forever. Still now, today I was teaching judo today, and. My mother used to say to me, how come you can learn all this Japanese terminology, you can't learn your schoolwork? Because it doesn't interest me.
No, not interested, exactly.
Teachers didn't know how to engage kids like me, rather than flog us, give us the cane or whatever. But so I left school at 16, and the teacher, my science teacher, Kevin Ross, great fellow, must have saw something in me, because his wife worked for an insurance company called Mercantile Mutual, and they had a job going for an office clerk, and he put me forward for it. And I got the bus in, had my good pants on, probably the only shirt I had, white shirt, put that on, and went and did the interview, and they said, you've got the job as long as you pass English and maths. I'd never passed the maths test. So my mother, and my parents, and probably like a lot of parents where we came from in those days, they were just always struggling. We had a couple of concrete mixers that we used to rent out. There was no rental places back then. We had, first of all, petrol ones, then we got electrics, about half a dozen. And that, my mum used to say, your dad earns the bread and butter, and this is a bit of cream. And they got me a tutor, a girl from university, and did mathematics, and she explained things to me in a way that I could understand it a little bit better. With fractions, you turn this upside down. I went, why didn't they tell me this at school? And I passed maths and got the job, and started as a clerk, and it was like I just couldn't wait to go to work every day. I hated school every day. Oh, I'm sick. But going to work, I got the bus to work. My mother would make me 10 sandwiches, 5 rounds of bread, I'd have that, and they couldn't believe how much I'd eat. I'd catch the bus to work, and 1970, 72 I started there. I left school in 72. Within 4 years, I think I was made an inspector, and that means that you get a company car. I was 19, I was the youngest within 3 years. I turned 16 in the October, and I started there in the November at 16. And then they gave me an old Holden, and I got $30 a month expenses, out-of-pocket expenses. I thought I was the king. And I drove around Canberra. I did Goulburn down to Young and out to Cooma, looking after foreign general clients. And that gave me a background in how to speak to people. because you're having to go to see these doctors, lawyers, solicitors, professional people, and quote their businesses, or they'd give you a lead on something. It was fire and general business, as well as household insurance, cars and boats, whatever, trucks. So, and I picked up there was a young fellow named Robert who was the one before me. I was supposed to learn his job, and he went on, but he ended up leaving. And I used to hear him on the telephone. He sounded quite gay at the time. I didn't know what gay was. I didn't know what gay was. I thought it was just happy when you're happy. He wasn't, but that's the way he came across. And his telephone, I mimicked his telephone manner because it was so good. Hey, good morning, Mercantile Mutual. How may I help you? And I went, so I would mimic that, and that's how I learned. So when I wanted to get in the cops. I always wanted to be in the cops, but you had to have your HSC, which I didn't have. So I went back to night school while I was working, 1977. I went and did a year, and funnily enough, Kevin Ross, my high school, was running the night school classes at the high school, and I did, because I was no good at maths, so I did science, English, and geography as the subjects. And then you had a general studies subject that they just threw at the day, and it was get your name right, numbers 1 to 10, things like fairly simple things that gave you the 4 subjects. And this was the last year in 1977 that we sat it with all the other students, the year 11 and 12 students, or 5th and 6th year, in the same hall at the same time. And I in 1976, I went to Japan for 6 weeks to train judo, and I got serious. They didn't like white boys over there. They bashed me up. I was 19, first time I've been anywhere out of Australia. I'd been on a plane before, just to Sydney, and flew to Japan. That was an adventure. Hong Kong, got into a bit of a street fight in Hong Kong with somebody. On these kung fu fights. I turned up in Japan not knowing anything, with some money, hoping to go and stay at the Kodokan, which is where the headquarters of judo. I had a letter from the president of the Australian New South Wales Judo Association, and I turned up there going, I'm here, and they went, so what? They said, I said, I want to live here and train for, They said, go down the road and get a photo done, all in broken English and a bit of Japanese. You go to this studio, you get a photo taken, and they said, we'll make a decision, come back. Came back a couple of hours later, and they'd spoken to Sensei Abe, who was the 8th then, and he decided that he'd sponsor me. Someone has to sponsor you when you're in Japan. You can't just turn up and stay there. So he said he'd sponsor me. And I paid my fees, and they went upstairs. I was the only one living in the Kodokan, and I could understand why. It was the worst place. You think police barracks are bad. I had a single room, had a desk, shared toilets and showers down the end. Very hot and humid. The bed, single bed with a soybean pillow that leaves indentations on your face every night, and tins of like creosote oil or something underneath each of the bedposts, because the bugs crawl up in the bed. So, and then they'll crawl on the ceiling and drop down during the night. There's all these big bugs. So I spent 6 weeks there, and I it was an adventure, but it was a fairly traumatic. I got bashed, belted, I broke my nose, you see, and tore my shoulder out the socket. And when I came back to Australia, I had to have an operation. So
Big
I wanted
learning curve.
Hey?
Big learning curve.
It is. At 9, I turned 20 while I was over there. It's not like today with mobile phones. You had to book a phone call through the telephonist. You had to book it, and we're on a different time zone here. I rang my mother one time, big 19-year-old, Mum, I want to come home. And she goes, stay there and enjoy yourself, sort of thing. Yeah. Pull your head in, you big sook. And I didn't realise at the time, I was sending letters back, 6 weeks is a long time when you're, a young fella.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting any mail, but there'd been a mail strike here, and I didn't get any birthday cards, and didn't, nothing. Everything got sent back. So I lived there, and I got to have a look around. Came back, but I learnt so much over there, and I had a lot of, and a lot of it's in the book about the adventures that I had.
Yeah.
Especially, and the strange thing was, when I got home, I said to my father, I speak Japanese, and they just look at me. He goes, they don't believe that whites can speak Japanese. So they're a bit shocked, and they just, don't know what to say. Saying, ohayo gozaimasu, o genki desu ka? They look at me. Some will go, o genki desu, but not a lot. But, so I came back from there, had my operation on my shoulder in 1977. Went and did, while I was recovering, I went and did the exams, the yearly exams in November or whatever, and I got a pass. I put in for the ACT police. Before that, I'd put in for the Queensland police. I didn't want to go to Sydney, so I lived in Canberra, born and bred in Canberra. And every time I went to Sydney, I got a headache. It was too noisy, it was polluted. Even back then, it was always a drama. I went, Brisbane, Queensland. So I put an application in for Queensland, and they sent me a thing saying, be here on this day for an interview in Brisbane at headquarters. And I didn't go. And then they sent me a letter saying, we haven't heard from you. Knocked it back. I also put in for it was then still the Commonwealth Police. They hadn't become the Australian Federal Police. And I got an interview, and I didn't go for that. So and ACT Police was still, new young police force. So I went there, and they had the hardest exam. I went in, it was a Saturday morning, I think you all sit down for this exam. And I opened it up. I spoke to the training staff beforehand, and they were really keen to have me. They go, look, we want you to, you go in. And because I think it's in the book as well, there's a solicitor, a bloke there who was a solicitor, and he was a real smarmy bloke. And he goes, this is so simple, And I looked at it, and I went, I have no idea what they're talking about. The English wasn't too bad, but my old nemesis, the maths, turned up. I opened it up, and they said, I don't know why you need to know this. Still remember the question. You have an oval, cricket oval, that has a diameter of such and such. And in the middle is a cricket pitch, and it's 11 metres by 1 metre. Using pi r squared and Pythagoras' theorem and all the rest of it, how much grass is required to cover it if they are 1 metre by half a metre wide, taking out the cricket pitch?
Yeah, because I use that a heap in the police.
Yeah, that's just madness.
Yeah, mate, just about every day I use that in the police.
So I nearly cried. So I failed, and I went outside, and the guys, they said to me in the training, they go, oh, mate, you failed that. And this solicitor, he passed, but they punted him. They said, we don't want him, he's a belter.
Oh, right.
So they got rid of him. And I went away and studied this and came back. And I passed the exam. I passed.
All right.
I figured that it was the same exam, so I figured it out.
Yep.
I went, you beauty. The physical, so then they send you to the police medical officer, the PMO.
Yep.
I have a medical officer. This old doctor in Canberra. And I went there. I didn't know at this stage. And he looked at me and said, and I had a letter from my surgeon, Dr. Kitchener, saying my shoulder was strong. And he goes, cool. Eye test. I sat down. I went, ABC, 1, 2, 3. Close your right eye. I couldn't see the third line. He goes, you failed the vision. You've got to have 6/6 uncorrected vision in both eyes.
Yeah.
I was shattered. I was shattered. And at the same time, I got engaged, this girl. At the same time, I'd just sent off an application to WA Police and Northern Territory, because WA was as far away from Canberra as you get. They didn't, at Swanbank, they never even replied. Northern Territory, I didn't know they had a recruiting drive. So I've just been shattered by the news. I've failed the ACT police test.
Yeah.
I went to a specialist, and an eye specialist, and he said, what's happened is your pupil, when you stop growing, has grown a fraction and it's just put out of focus. It will never get any worse. To this day, I don't wear glasses. But just going forward 50 years, I went for an eye test a couple of years ago. He said, your eyes improved. You no longer need to wear glasses when driving. So he took it off my licence.
Yeah, wow.
But, so that it came through the Northern Territory Police that you've got an interview. And and really great bloke, Jack, I don't know his name's just Chief Inspector. He was going around the country doing interviews. He went every state, everywhere doing these interviews. They used to send it all around the newspapers what's the word I'm looking for? And recruit from all over Australia.
Yep.
They couldn't get them in the Northern Territory.
No. Population. Yeah.
Had this interview down in Canberra. There was him and a sergeant from the ACT Police, two of them. They'd hired this office, and I go in and sat down, and Jack says to me, this Chief Inspector, asked me some questions, which I learnt the right answer to later on. When, they ask you, what do you think about gays? When they asked me that, when I went to join New South Wales, I said, well, I've never tried it, but I'm willing to give it a go if I have to. The old sergeant didn't know what.
Oh, dearie.
So he said, old Jack saying to me, now, you're out in a settlement and a fella comes in from out the bush and he steals an apple. What are you going to do about it? And I'm a 21-year-old. I'm knocked around. I'm working in insurance. I'm selling insurance. Got at that stage, I had to bring $100,000 worth of premium in a year. I had to make, which was a lot of money back then, and I was getting paid about $20,000. So there's that.
Yeah.
And I said to him, well, he may not know that's the wrong thing to do, so I'll warn him, and I'll let him go. And if he comes back in town and does it again, he knows I'll arrest him. And this sergeant from New South ACT Police said, what gives you the right to make that decision? And old Jack turned around and goes, well, he's actually right, that he may not know that that's wrong, and he has the discretion to do it. And this shut this sergeant down from the ACT. And next thing, I got they didn't do a physical test. You just went for a physical to make sure you're upright, you had 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 heads. I mean, 1 head. And I then, this is where I learnt my trick of passing eye tests. So I went for the eye test, and this is what I did. He said, cover your left eye. And I went, ABC, 1, 2, 3. He said, cover your right eye. And I went, ABC, 1, and I just covered it with the other hand.
Yeah. Perfect.
And I passed the test. I got caught out many years later at the RTA doing it.
Yeah.
The girl goes, you can't read that with the left eye, you'll need glasses. Only driving a vehicle over 8 tonne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I learnt that trick. And then the other one I learnt was I'd go in beforehand and learn the third line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the thing. And I'd learn the third. I remember, then I got caught because they had one of those ones that spin around. They just had a button.
Yeah.
And I learnt that, and then she spun it round. I was in a mirror, and I went, I'm snooking.
Yeah.
So then I got a travel warrant to go to the NT to start up there on course on the 2nd of October 1978.
Wow.
Yeah.
A year after I was born.
Year after you were born.
Yeah.
And look at it, you look like a baby still. And I packed up the
A
suitcase.
wrinkly old grey one. You bet.
Don't be too hard on him. Run all the way to get there.
Yeah.
And I packed my suitcase, resigned from the Mercantile Mutual, and they didn't see it coming, and they were really shocked. They wanted me to take on a manager's job down at Griffith. Well, at the time, 1977, there was a drought on. And of course, the only thing they were growing in Griffith at the time, I didn't know that, But I had mates there, the Sergis. I went to school with the Sergis and the Barbaros, and all those the Calabrians. And we couldn't understand why every school holidays they'd be going, we're going to Griffith and bringing back grappa and whatnot. They drive down to Griffith, make the grappa and tomato sauce in the bottles, and we sort of didn't twig till many years later that. But I had an idea. I said, look, a drought in country town, the last thing anyone's going to buy is insurance.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fail. So I resigned, and they were a bit disappointed, and flew up to the Northern Territory. And it was, you guys will appreciate this. When you get off the plane in Darwin, I think it's probably still the same. You land and get off the tarmac. The heat hits you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you either go, it just sucks. You get off the plane and you know it goes whoop in your face. And you go, oh, and I went, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
I used to say to cops after, if your missus gets off the plane and goes, I hate this, go home. Because they will not learn to love it.
Yeah.
No.
And so I got off and I went, how good. And Dave Barrett was the, and there was a few coming in on the same flight. And they have a bus there, and they got the list of who's coming in. You used to get travel warrants, and they'd send you a travel warrant to travel. You take that to the airline, and they give you a ticket. And we were signed up on the condition that every 2 years we got a trip back to our hometown or capital city. You had that. Free housing, but it was barracks, or for married people it was free housing. So Dave Barrett picked us up in the bus and took us to the barracks at Kavanagh Street. Oh no, I tell a lie. I'm lying. Took us to the Esplanade Hostel.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, heaven on a stick. Had our own room. They had a pool. We got breakfast.
Wow.
In the morning. You could have breakfast because they had a dining room. And we'd settled in there, and dropped us because there was no room in the back. I'm not sure to this day whether there was no rooms or they just wanted us to settle, because once we moved into barracks. Now the married guys were supposed to stay in barracks or with us and not bring their family until you were through initial. So I know it's the same with you. Each week you were there, you sort of paid off part of your airfare. You know, it was a return of service. They never hit you up for if you left the first day. They didn't say, we want our money back. But that was just the price of doing business up there, because getting people there. Every company had to do the same. So, give them something, housing or whatnot.
Yep.
After a couple of weeks, they said, right, you're all moving down to the barracks. But some of the guys had brought their wives, and there was no police housing accommodation available. So they were having to go out and get rented units. Now, if you had kids, you could get a house. If there was just two of you, a married couple, you got a unit. A 1 or 2 bedroom unit, and it wasn't allowed to have air conditioning or a pool, all right, because none of the housing did. So I carried my suitcase down from the Esplanade up there, or we were running every morning before it started for first morning of class, and then we came down on the Monday, and we're all in plain clothes, and we all lined up in the lecture hall there in Kavanagh Street. And you're looking along the line. I still remember looking along the line. There was a guy with sort of long hair at the back, big bushy moustache, and I thought, he's got cowboy boots on. It was Dave Benson. Do you know Benno? Dave Benson, he went to...
I reckon I remember, I think...
Tommy Bloke. He used to always go, hello.
Yeah, it's familiar.
Yeah. So Dave Benson, and I looked at him and went, a strange fish, but anyway, nice guy, and we ended up being stationed at Gove together. But you're looking down the line, there was a guy there, I remember, and his name is right on the end of the list here, and his name was Rene Van Zetten. He was a dragline greaser. And I remember him specifically because he was there in the morning, and he went, and he just didn't come back after morning tea. He was gone.
Wow.
He didn't even make it past lunch.
Just left.
He went, this is not for me.
Yeah. Wow.
Because we had to line up. I don't know why he went to all that trouble and he just went, I'm gone.
Yeah. Wow.
Bloody hell.
So, a dragline greaser. And we had a few girls. We had about 7 girls on our course, and they were all good, really good scouts. We had a big mixture of people from 18 like to 30, 32, maybe a bit older. We had a guy from Tasmanian Police, did 7 years in the Tasmanian Police. John Osborne Smith, and his missus ended up being a superintendent, I think, at Tennant Creek. He was very fit. He was 7 years in the ACT Police and was a police diver. He was 32, and I turned 22 6 days after we were sworn in. So you get sworn in that day.
Yep.
And they go to you, you've got all the powers, please don't go and arrest anyone.
Yeah.
Guess what?
No.
You did. Oh dear.
So we got sworn in, and you start, and it was hard for me. After a couple of weeks, we got a uniform. You get your full uniform, handcuffs, baton. I'll just grab this. You get that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Remember
Wow.
that?
Yeah. Well, we
That's
don't.
before our time, but yeah.
It's not a Mr. Happy bedroom toy either.
No.
It's got the leather strap. It's rubber. It's got three bits of wire in it. That was the New South Wales one. I'll probably get done for goods in custody now, but anyway. It went inside we had a trouser pocket. Inside your pocket was a baton pocket, and slipped in there. And then your handcuffs were worn on the front. The Safloff handcuffs were worn on your front left. All right? And, sorry. This was your belt.
Yep.
That your
Oh yeah.
handcuff.
Yep.
Yeah, we had them. Yep.
Yeah, we had them.
That's the
Yep.
wanking kangaroo. All right?
Yep.
That they changed.
The
So
masturbating marsupial, Roger. The
that's
masturbating
right.
marsupial.
That's the masturbating, the wanking kangaroo. Now, I don't think this will fit me. It looks like it would fit a young girl or Schultzy. Will not fit me.
Aye.
I kept that. So we're and the best thing was, to me, you lined up outside the barracks at 6:15 in the morning, and you went for a run. And you probably did the same, and they took you down to the wharf, and you had Breakfast Hill and all that, and we all ran
Hey,
in.
Roger, you missed one thing there. Damo used to throw up before doing that.
I throw up before.
Just some smoking.
You weren't a durry, man.
I used to
Yeah,
light
that's-
one off the end of the other. I used to smoke like a green log, Roger.
Did you? I don't know how you did it, but I loved that. So we'd have our run in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesdays and Thursday you line up and they'd take you Parat Pool and do your swimming. You did the swimming too. You had to do your life saving. Did you guys do that? Yeah. So then you had to get either your bronze
Yep.
star.
Yeah.
bronze medallion.
Damo, not very well.
No, we had Peter Ubersold, lovely guy, dead now. Peter Ubersold was at Roper River. Coming in, he worked at, I'll just throw in here, he was working, when we went out, he was a sergeant, he was working at communications. He came out on his motorbike one night when you come out of Palmerston there, pulled up in the sort of, and a woman, junkie, unregistered, uninsured, cleaned him up from behind. Lost his left arm and his leg. Right, cut off.
Gee.
Lost his arm up at the thigh, top of the hip, and his arm at the shoulder. And for years after, he used to do a lot of volunteer for work. Put the caravan, when they had the caravan out, putting it out for missing people and doing displays and recruiting and stuff. Him and Carmen, and he could not swim a stroke. And he said to me, Rocky, I got the name Rocky. Guess why? Because I used to like the fight. I'd fight anyone, anytime, just for fun. It was just good. I just liked the fight. And at the time, our self-defense we were doing, our weaponless tactics was Aikido. Now, and by Richard Barnes up at the police boys. So you go up there a couple of times a week. Now, I did judo, and I was New South Wales champion. I was ACT champion. I did a lot of karate, and I trained a lot. I had my own classes and clubs. And we were doing Aikido, which I didn't mind, but you have to be really advanced to do it. But Dave Barrett, the barrack sergeant, was at black belt, and another guy off our course was also Nigel McBain, who's passed away now, and they introduced this Aikido. Well, the wrist locks are good, but people just couldn't get it. You're better off showing somebody how to throw a nice short right and do a wrist lock or whatever, or choke. So I would be helping them with that, and I got this nickname Rocky, which was handy when I was in Aboriginal settlements. They all used to call me Rocky Wawa, Rocky. So everyone knew me, and a lot of people didn't even know my real name. They would call me Rocky. All through course, some of my paperwork came out with Rocky on it, which is, and one of Andy Holt, I don't remember Andy Holt from out at I mentioned guys, and you probably don't know him, but he was at Warrabri, and they changed, I think they've changed Warrabri to another name now, and Tennant and Warrabri, and he came up the gate, and his wife, very lovely, she goes, "Oh, what's Rocky's full name?" And he was a very dry bloke, and he goes, "Oh, it's real Rocket. They call him Rocky for short because his name's Rocket." She thought that was my real name.
Yeah. No.
So after a couple of weeks up the Esplanade, we thought, how good's this? They moved, right, you're all moving to the barracks. I go down there. It was an abysmal place. Every single man had to live there. Yes. Before that, they were in house. They're in a Mariner House. They were all in this big house, Mariner House it was called, and the guy who wrote I the Aboriginal, Lockhart, I think his name is, lived next door, and he was always ringing the commissioner's office and complaining because there was always shots going off. There was shots being let go down the hallway. It's the one no one got killed because they was drinking.
Wow.
There was shots being let down the hallway. There was bullet holes. Wow. And, blokes had come home. Because you know what happens when you get NT cops together? They drink and they fight. If there's no crooks around, they'll fight one another. I won't tell you, but they will fight one another. And so we're all living in the barracks, 2 floors there, and you had a single room. It had no real curtains that were any good. You had a desk. You had a little single bed. It had louver windows above and a fan, right, a ceiling fan, and then toilets and showers, common toilets and showers, shared. And guys on afternoon shift be going to choir practice and coming home after choir practice, they still have choir practice, I'd say.
Yeah.
And the guys on night shift trying to sleep during the day, and guys on afternoon shift coming home from choir practice, waking everybody up, and blokes be coming out and waving guns and doing all sorts. So there was no shots fired. I did take umbrage with one of the. He ended up being an assistant commissioner. Who thought he knew it. He was only a constable first class and joined when he was about 18, and his father actually was the commissioner of motor vehicles of the RTA up there, whatever they called it then. And he just was a know-all bloke, and I took umbrage at it, and I threw him out the window one night. Anyway, onto the balcony. There was balconies there. I knew there was a balcony. So I
was born too late. I was seriously.
You would have fit right in, Damo. But we had some really good guys, and one of the guys, Paul Bartlett, I'll mention him. He was a bit overweight. He was a big lad, but he ran his heart out. He never gave up. Ended up winning. They have an award for the best student or whatever, because you have the Ducks Sports Award and best student, voted by everybody, and he won it, and rightly so. He was he showed a lot of heart. I wasn't a great runner. I wasn't fast, but I kept going. I was always down the back and just doing. But I loved all the sport aspects of things. And when we played detectives at soccer, and that was like a bloodbath. And I got in there, and the boss of the detectives, Terry O'Brien, took a liking. Big Terry O'Brien, who was, did you know Terry O'Brien? Big
R.I.P. Terry O'Brien. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
He's an ex-New South Wales screw. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that.
And
No.
this is his trick. He would, because they had these in the jail, he would put talcum powder in his pocket and would make it faster. He could whip it out, whack it, and pack it back in before you could blink. And that was, it didn't get caught on anything. He put talcum powder in it.
Wow. There you go.
So we got our uniforms, and you had to put a bash. They gave you an Akubra, and then you had to put a bash. And I put a terrible bash in mine. You soak it and bash your Akubra. And I said, now don't go and arrest anyone. So me and Steve Kelly, we used to go every lunchtime. We'd walk up Kavanagh Street. There's a nice cafe up there, and I'd have a toasted ham and cheese sandwich and a chocolate milkshake. And everyone knows in town you're a recruit. Because you just scream recruit. Your uniform's clean for a start. Your shoes, you've got the Julius Marlowes on, which are polished. Probably spit polished front and heel. The creases are good. Because once you're a working cop, you don't look like that anymore, do you?
No.
Schultzy probably hardly wore a uniform when he was at the Did you just wear shorts and a shirt with your...
Oh, mate. Yeah, mate, I just wore whatever the hell I want. I didn't even shave cleanly.
You were the boss.
No.
Different for Detective Damo. He had to, but I see you out Ramanging there, maybe
King
throwing an
G-shirts
unworn
and
shirt
go-go
on.
pants.
Yeah.
Yep, and looking good. So we're up having lunch, and somebody comes over and goes, "I think that person over there's got a pistol, got a gun." So we go over and arrest him. Call the cops. They come down. You can imagine effing recruits. That's all they did. They just shook their head.
Yeah.
I got called into the director's office, and his name was Tony Godwin. And do you know his son? Don't you?
I do know Assistant Commissioner Lance Godwin. Yeah, I do know him. Yeah,
He was a young kid. Yeah. He was one of the first cadets when they started the cadets in about 1980. I might be wrong. 1980. He was him. There was a couple of other police. Pat Grant, I think one of the Grant's young fellas might have been a cadet. There's a couple of the old cops. Their kids became cadets. And I'll just digress, what they did was a really good thing. They would lend them out to trades and other jobs for about 6 months at a time while they were in their cadetship, so that they got an idea of what the real world was about. So they went out labouring for a plumber, and they were doing bricking or doing whatever, so that they just weren't like New South Wales going for different departments and divisions and what. They did that as well, but they had to go out and work in the community, which I thought was a really good idea. So we arrested this guy, and then I arrested somebody else as well. And we got called in the office. But academically, I looked at my results the other day. I've still got the results in. In the initial training, I think I came maybe second last. And in the retention training, I came in the middle. And luckily, you got your number from your name, alphabetically. I think they still do the same, just not from your results. So just came in. So and we had a guy on our course became number 1,000, and that was Greg Fielder.
Oh wow!
And he hit the 1,000, and he had to put on so many cartons. And guess who turned up? All the detectives and task force, they were called at the time. They were the emergency squad. They become task force after emergency squad. And they were all the hard lads.
That's where Tasky comes from. They were the task force after that.
Yeah, and it became the emergency squad. And we'd have a drink on a Friday night. They'd have a bit of a barbecue and end of week at the barracks there. We'd have a couple of cartons. I didn't drink. I was a lemonade drinker only. But the emergency squad would turn up, and they had a few hard lads, and they were big, and they had that reputation. It was Pappy Bullock and Green, and the guy who ran it was a big, strong fella too. And Dutchy Holland was there. There was a few, knock-around sort of guys. And they stuck on a bit of a stink with us and wanted to fight me and somebody else. And I thought, this is not, in my train, this is not a good thing. If I win, I lose. If I lose, I lose. So I just, no, I'm good. Got called into Inspector Godwin's office on the Monday. I thought, here we go. I want to congratulate you on keeping you cool and not getting involved in that melee type thing. I went, oh, well, thank you very much, sir. First time I got a good boy for not fighting. So I was pretty happy with that. So I love the physical side, the training. It was, and there was a lot. You guys know how much legislation you have to know. And I know I've heard you, Damo, and Damo, good with his legislation and understanding as a detective. And you too, Schultzy, out in the bush, you have to know it. But you're ex officio everything.
Yeah.
Births, deaths, marriages. I don't know whether still we were doing vehicle registrations. You'd have to do that license testing.
Yep.
You had to know everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all these acts, and they gave us this box of acts of parliament. There was hundreds of them, and all of them.
Yeah.
You had all these amendments. Did they still do that? You had to go through and put all these amendments in, and most of them were. The penalty was, this is how old the acts of parliaments were. A penalty of £5 or shall be whipped.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
Shall be whipped.
How easy is that? Well,
Yeah.
So you had these little.
piece.
Yeah, so you had to have these little bits of paper and stick them on. I never got mine finished. I just because I wasn't going to whip anybody, but that was all these acts of parliament, and it was in pounds, shillings, and pence, and then it changed it to dollars, or shall be whipped for different offences. I'm going, how good is that?
Yeah.
In the acts of parliament.
Hey, Roger, I'm just going to stop you there, mate. I always thought there should be an offence code cleared by offender flogged.
Yeah.
He promised never to do it again.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree. I think that's a really good one. Fender flogged, promises not to do it again.
Yeah.
And then we used, and you'd say to, why am I being arrested? We say, you're being under arrested under the tarpaulin act because that covers everything.
Yeah.
And you know this, and no offense. Look, I mean no offence because I'm still part of the Rirajingu community in the Northern Territory. I truly am. I'm made part of the community up there. I was a famous fellow, took me into the clan. The photos in the book of Mana the Shark, the big bark painting is done for me. Yeah. And they'd say to me, "Hey, what are you locking me up for?" I'd say, just for drunk. Just for drunk, just for 8 hours. Yeah, just for drunk. Okay. And they were happy with that. Just lock them up with protective custody,
Yeah.
And when I first went up there, I tell people this, I said, a lot of people die from ticks up there. They go, die from ticks? Yeah, you get hit on the head with a big tick, it'll kill you.
Yeah.
There's a big tick here. See this tick? That was used to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a big tick. Hit
Didgeridoo
on the head. Hey?
Yeah.
That's just a
Didgeridoo
Yidaki.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a didgeridoo, Yidaki, but it's a hardwood one. And the fella killed. And then I've got a big spear up here above that's fitted to the wall that a guy tried to spear me, a big hunting spear. Guy tried to spear me one night. And that, you've seen that before too.
Ooh.
It's a shovel nose,
Shovel nose spear.
Yeah.
Through the door of a Toyota, that will.
Yep.
That guy, that was given to me with a spear, but I didn't know. It had a milkworm in it. And some other carvings. I gave a lot away because people say, and I give things away, and I shouldn't have. But we did 16 weeks of training, which I thought was a long time. That was a long time for me. And then you put in your preference, and I was engaged at the time, living in the barracks. My wife, fiance came up, so moved here in. And a week before we graduated, I got married on the 13th of January 1979. We were graduated on the 19th. And John Hancock, who was a good hangers, Sergeant John Hancock, gave the fiancée away because her father couldn't get there. We got married in police uniform because I was too tight. I couldn't hire a suit. I didn't have any clothes, so I put in permission as the new uniform. Can I get married? You used to have to ask for permission to get married. So he put in a report to the commissioner.
Yeah.
Can I get married? I don't know why he said no. Probably would have been a good idea if he'd said no to me. And we run. I got married up at the cathedral. The fiance, she said, find somewhere to live and organise the wedding and do all this. I'm a 22-year-old knockabout bloke. I don't know anything. Went and saw Canon Wood there at the big Church of England, the White Cathedral there, and I didn't know who he was. The big boss, this cannon. I didn't know what a cannon was unless you fired one in the war. I didn't know what a cannon was. I said I want to get married and and read the bands. I didn't know about reading of the bands, and got to do it a few weeks. And then Peter Naylor, another lovely bloke. So many of our class have passed away, different things. Peter Naylor, lovely fella, left the cops and went to work as a crane driver at Newcastle Steelworks. Apprentice, in a big one of those big cranes, lifting the big steel, molten steel. And he was in the crane with the driver, and the big steel molten things come through the glass and killed him. But he had a 250. He had this motorbike, 250 motorcycle, because I didn't have a vehicle up there. I left it with the fiancée in Canberra, and he let me ride that around at night, go and look at flats at Nightcliff and Parappan places, and some of them were pretty. Even to me, they were pretty ordinary, and I knew my wife-to-be wanted to live somewhere reasonable, but it had to be within that parameters of because the apartment's paying for it, can't have anything flash about it. So we had no air conditioning in the barracks. It was tough, and you couldn't cook in the barracks. And we used to eat at the Chew and Spew. I'd go to the Koala Bar Inn every night and have a beautiful buffalo steak, and I had an NT draft shandy with a dash of NT in it. That was my drink. And then they had the disco at the Koala Bar. The disco afterwards. That was always good.
Yeah.
Do my Arthur Murray moves at the disco.
Perfect.
And I put in, you put your three preferences, and some guys didn't get a look in. Some were sent to Alice Springs, half a dozen, boom, to Alice Springs. We had a couple of guys came from there, wanted to go back. But if you guys have been there, and you won't want to go back there if you've been. But I got Nolan Boy. And put him in.
It's a wild show.
Well, 2 years.
It sounded exotic. I had no idea where it was or what it was.
Yeah.
Get Marin Boy and Nolan Boy mixed up, but yeah. So, and there was about 10 or 12. So after a couple of months working in Darwin, I went there and I worked with some good blokes in Darwin, and a couple of the detectives end up being detectives, and the drugs. There's a couple of stories I've written in there with a Gulka man and things like. Did you run into G'daychi Man when you were down the centre, or the Gulka Man?
Oh yeah.
We used to
all the time.
we used to embrace the G'daychi Man a little bit.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, we used to use him to at advantage a lot of the time as well.
I did too. I must admit. Look in there, old man got long white beard. It was a little bit horrible, but you had to. And so I went to Nolan Boy, and a great bunch of people there, good sergeants, and the first sergeant there was a bit of a strange bloke, and then senior sergeant was a senior sergeant, and Doug Hovey was the inspector. And he was going to run number 2 division from there. So number 2 division was the top end, those stations. For some reason, they didn't want him in Darwin, so they sent him to Nolan Boy. And he took the house that was allocated to him. He got there a few days before me, and the backyard was a mess. It was just been overgrown and been chopped up, and they just left it. So he got there, had a look at my place and his place, and decided to have mine. And rank has its privileges. I was a baggy house probationary constable.
Yeah.
So I spent the time cleaning that up. But I had a great time. And then Nolan Boy, I had so many events. And as you know, and I hear from you, Damo, too, and Schultzy, you have to do, and you have to play things differently because you're 600 mile away. 600.
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
just go, you will do this because I tell you, and then
Yeah, that's
call,
right. Yeah.
call for backup. There isn't any.
Tune in again next week because Roger's on again. Don't leave anywhere, Roger. We're continuing.